The lights are shining bright here on this South Carolina night, and while many drivers are thinking about getting the National Series win or perhaps a shot at a title, we have one title to decide here tonight. The NFRN Champions League is back for the first time since Calder Park to run their fourth and final round here at Myrtle Beach. Hello again everybody, I'm Colin Denton with RVN, and welcome to the fourth race of the Champions League, and we will crown a champion here tonight in this Elite Series. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the series, we do not blame you. Calder Park, which was race number 9 on the Elite Cup Series schedule, was our last race. So let's get you caught up to speed. This series is a 12-car field of drivers selected from the previous season, as we had 12 drivers that signed up from Season 1 to Season 2. They were selected to be the field for this season, and they take part in 4 rounds at various racetracks. Columbia was our first. We followed that up with Riki Raceway, went to Calder Park, and now we take on our first and only short track here at Myrtle Beach. So far, this season has been dominated by Eric Van Arsdale. Started off with a victory at Columbia, making the perfect move on John Arndt for that win, and then going to Riki Raceway, utilizing the lapped car of Colin Lindsay to get past Allison Rain, and just held her off at the start-finish line to claim the first 2 victories of the season. Did not have a great finish at Calder Park, ended up finishing 10th due to road courses being notoriously hard to pass on and the grid being set by inverse points. So that leaves an opportunity for some drivers to go after the title here, even though he has a pretty decent points lead. You can see those 4 drivers on the bottom with their names in red are eliminated from contention for this season's title, but we still have 8 total drivers who could potentially walk away with the first NFRN Champions League title. Let's not leave you waiting. Let's get to the starting grid for tonight's race. Obviously set by inverse points order. On the front row will be Noah Cars, who has struggled in this series just like he has in the Elite Cup Series this season. A best finish of 8th in the first 3 races. And Nick Smith, who ended up at the rear of the field at Calder Park. In row number 2, an Elite Cup Series chase contender in NASCAR Fan 19, and a race winner at Toronto in Tyler Markell. Another race winner this season at one of the tracks we visited earlier this season, William Brock won at Riki, and Colin Lindsay, the Season 1 Elite Cup Series runner-up. A couple winners at Calder Park in row number 4, Stephen Willie grabbed the Champions League win, followed by Allison Rain, who got the win in the Elite Cup Series. Our Season 1 Elite Cup Series champion Rampage on the inside of row 5 alongside the driver tied with him for the most wins in series history, Reese Butcher. And bringing up the rear, it's our top 2, John Arndt, the Elite Cup Series chase contender, and Eric Van Arsdale, our points leader. 11 of these 12 drivers will be in the running for the Elite Cup Series race later this evening. First, we got to crown a champion in the Champions League. The green flag's out here at Myrtle Beach. Boy, they just about sent it 3 wide going down in the turn 1 between Smith, Markell, and NASCAR Fan 19. Now Lindsay's trying to go up the outside. Got 70 laps to turn here on the short track, and this should give us a good idea of how drivers will be running later tonight. Truck Series also in contention here at the track as NASCAR Fan 19 and Lindsay continue to run side by side. Maybe a little contact there in turns 1 and 2. Riding on board William Brock as he watches the side-by-side battle and looking for who's going to have the advantage, but unfortunately they're pretty even, continuing to run side-by-side down the track and losing a little bit of ground. Every time it looks like the 64 might have it on the inside, Lindsay comes back on the outside, and Brock is trying to figure out which is the best lane to take. The 95 is just barely straddling that groove with the left side tires and making it work, and he's looking like he has a bit of an advantage as we see back in the field. Van Arsdale hasn't made up any ground yet. By all accounts, it's a little bit more of a successful season for Van Arsdale. Despite not having a victory yet, he was able to get into the Amateur Cup Series playoffs. Unfortunately, did drop out in the round of 12 and is last among those drivers, but he does have the chance to go for a championship here tonight, and he just has to take it easy. Obviously don't want to finish at the back of the field, but if he can start to make up ground marginally, he can try to go for the points title. If he can finish at least 4th, he will clinch it. But obviously it all comes down to where everyone else runs as we see continued battles here in the rear of the field. Rain runs next to Willie. And it looks like Arndt was able to get by Butcher at the rear of the field, and Van Arsdale is going to try to take an attack on the inside as well. Looking back at our Season 1 champion, Rampage already announced he'd be retiring after Season 2. This is a swan song for him, both in this series and in the Elite Cup Series. 4 races left for his career, and we have trouble back here. John Arndt has slid. Second place in the points, and he's gone for a slide. See if we can get a look at that real quick. On the inside of Butcher, and can't quite tell if Van Arsdale made contact. Certainly on his bumper. The 05 goes up and smacks the outside wall. We're right on board Van Arsdale now. It looks like he's loose in the middle of the corner, and potentially Van Arsdale got into him, but I don't think that was an intentional move by the 67 to gain an advantage. I think it was just incidental contact. Potentially got him loose by being so close to him, but ultimately I think it's just a racing incident. However, the caution did not come out because the 05 was at the rear of the field and did not go around, so we stay under grain, and Arndt is going to have some ground to make up. Noah Carr is currently holding down the lead as Nick Smith continues to run in second. Been quite the difficult season for him. Chase contender last season in the Elite Cup Series, ended up finishing 6th in the points. This season he is 34th. Arguably his best stretch was in the second half of the regular season, but inside the playoffs has not really panned out. Only 2 top 20s in the 6 races they've run so far. The field has strung out. We are now fully single file. Now looking at our third place contender, Tyler Markell. Grabbed his first career win at Toronto Lakeshore. Big victory for him after really struggling throughout his career so far. Ended Season 1 26th in points. This season he's 33rd, even despite the victory, but he only has 3 top 10s. We'll note, though, that he is on a 3-race top 20 streak, so he has some good momentum going for him. Hoping to end out this race on a good note. 16 laps in the books for the season finale of the NFRN Champions League, but you won't miss a thing as we go side by side.
Don't be conventional.
Kevin Harvick?
Be exceptional. Upgrade to Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil. It helps your engine last over 250,000 miles.
Wow. What's he doing?
Raving.
He's exceptional.
So is Mobil 1. Yes.
Is this good?
I do not know.
Get 250,000 miles of protection. Upgrade to Mobil 1.
Back at Myrtle Beach, the site of the season finale for the NFRN Champions League. Points leader Eric Van Arsdale looking to close out a title run. But you can see he's running at the back of the field as Noah Carr currently leads on lap number 20, approaching 50 laps to go in the race. Continuing to run through our field, Colin Lindsay currently running in the 4th position. And to call this season a disappointment would be an understatement. Obviously, a great run in Season 1 in the Elite Cup Series. Ended up finishing runner-up in the points with that very interesting finale at Hula Hoop. But moving down into the Amateur Cup Series has not gone his way, has not found victory lane again. Really hoping to find some success here. And throughout the rest of the season, hoping that he can grab a race win before it's all said and done. As we continue to monitor how these drivers run. As we mentioned, they're single file and really haven't seen any challenges for positions. And as long as they keep spreading out, might be on for some green flag pit stops here. Looking at NASCAR Fan 19, who is still a part of the Elite Cup Series chase despite not having a victory this season. Was able to make it into the round of 8 last season with 2 wins inside the playoffs, but has not had that same luck this season, although he has had the consistency to stay up there in the title hunt. Right behind him, William Brock, another driver who is a part of the championship conversation. Grabbed a win at Reiki Raceway, his first career win after going winless in Season 1. Actually hadn't led a lap until that race. So already an upgrade between seasons, even though he was able to make the chase in Season 1 as a points driver. Ended up finishing 14th in the final standings. Looking at the field from above. Got a lovely copter cam for tonight's race, and Noah Cars is really stretching out that lead. Even though they run single file, Nick Smith cannot catch up to that 44 car, so that's very interesting to see. Clean Air is very much working in the favor of the 44. And as they continue to struggle along, John Arndt is still in pretty close proximity. You can see him at the bottom of the screen, trying to catch up to Van Arsdale, who potentially got into the 05. As we see Nick Smith now pulling off, and we are going to have green flag pit stops here. Approaching lap number 30, Smith's going to be alone here. And actually, we have John Arndt coming in behind him as we go triple box here. So the 18 and the 05 will lead things off here, as we now see on the top right box, Noah Cars will come in on this lap. Would expect that we're going to see 4 tire stops here. Might be a different story later in the race if they have to stop a second time. I would imagine that these drivers are running their fuel windows. So that would mean they would probably stop around lap 60. Maybe as late as 65 as Nick Smith comes down and Noah Cars makes contact. So the 18 and the 44 collide as they both go in and out of their pit stalls. Van Arsdale was behind Cars, and the 67 departs his stall. Noah Cars also going. Doesn't look like the crew's concerned about any potential damage. And just about the entire rest of the field came down the lap after the 44, except for NASCAR Fan 19 and Reese Butcher. So they're now coming around. Now remember, you do get bonus points for leading laps, so the 64 will lead a couple laps here. As Nick Smith comes around, and he is in front of Noah Cars. So we are going to have a change for the lead here. The 18 now in front of the 44, and Cars will slide into second place as he gets in front of Markel. So definitely a little bit of an attire advantage if you came in early. As Nick Smith now takes control of the race. Does mean now that he's on the oldest set of tires. So we'll see if these gaps between the cars start to shrink based on the drivers now currently up front. Pitting a little bit earlier, but not too much. 44 now in second, followed by the 48 and 95. But look who is in 5th place. Eric Van Arsdale pitted on that second lap, and he is now up into the 5th position. As I mentioned, if he finishes at least 4th, he would claim the title, at least via tiebreak, and obviously John Arndt would need to win and clinch the most laps led. And at the moment, Arndt's back in 9th place. So it's looking good for Van Arsdale right now, halfway through the race, but still 35 laps left to go.
"50 laps to go, and here comes Casey Kane in for a pit." Wow, that was fast. Boy, I want to see that again in slow motion, Doug.
Okay, that was something I did not see the first time, Pete.
Boy, you catch a lot more detail when you slow things down.
I guess so.
Those look good.
Yeah. Oh, Casey's always got time for arm wrestling.
Amazing.
Yes, she is, Pete.
Boy, you blink an eye and you miss all that.
Impressive. Casey Kane's always impressive.
Just over 30 laps left for the NFRN Champions League season. Nick Smith holding the lead after some pit strategy. He was the first to come down was able to overtake Noah Cars despite some contact between the two on pit lane. Continuing to go through our field, Allison Rain grabbing victory this season at Calder Park. Able to qualify for the playoffs for the first time. Her victory in Season 1 came after the playoffs started and she did not qualify. Was able to qualify this season. It did not go her way, but will still get a top 16 points finish. Another driver who made it, but did not make it into the round of 12 was Reese Butcher. Grabbed victory in close fashion at Green Valley Superspeedway, and unfortunately for him, his other victory came at Simtel Park, which was the race after he was eliminated from the chase. A former short track winner as well, as he grabbed the victory at Delaware in Season 1. Allowed him to get into the chase. Ended up finishing 12th in points. We'll see if he can improve on that this season. And looking back from his bumper is John Arndt. Still winless after all this time in the Elite Cup Series and a championship for berth in Season 1. Exited the round of 12, 5th in points. He is trying to go and challenge Van Arsdale for this title, but as the laps wind down and the passing seems to be at a premium, it's looking like this is Van Arsdale's title to lose. Even further back, we got Stephen Willey. His troubles in the Elite Cup Series this season have been well documented after winning the season opener in Season 1 at Bump Drafton. Has had one of the toughest luck entries on the grid and finds himself dead last in points. But he has been on the upswing within the playoffs. I'm looking to see if he can find any more success in these final 4 races, potentially gain some momentum if he comes back for Season 3. Back looking at the leader, Nick Smith, and nearly half a straightaway ahead of Noah Cars, as these drivers are starting to look like they're getting a little bit closer together. Let's take a look at those points as they run at the moment. Van Arsdale obviously still out in front, but we have a 4-way tie for second place. Arndt, Butcher, Rain, and Lindsay, the positions that they're currently running, they're all tied for second place, and I don't know if those tie breaks are in effect at the moment as that chart reads. For the league's sake, we'll say hopefully they'll change some positions and we won't have to tie break between 4 different drivers. And Nick Smith, who is the current leader, would jump up to 6th place after he entered this race 11th in the points. So that would be a great jump for him. But at the moment, Van Arsdale is in control. And just finishing where he is right now, he'd have a great finish going. We had a little bit of an issue for William Brock. Let's look back at his pit stop, and he had to check up for Van Arsdale coming into his pit. Looking okay so far. It's going to be a 4-tire stop like everyone else is getting. And he did slide a few positions back. Oh, but they're having trouble fueling the car, and that's going to put him on the pits for an extended amount of time, and that's going to put him further back, so that is why he has slid away from the rest of the group. So tough break for the 23 driver, but we have under 20 laps to go. Who is going to be the champion of the Champions League? We'll be right back after this break.
Since the Hendrick Racing Team started using Quaker State, they finished 1-2 in the 96 Winston Cup standings. Finished 1-2-3 this year at Daytona. And they've won at Rockingham, Bristol, Martinsville, and Charlotte. Which makes you wonder, is it in their blood or in their engines? Quaker State, the quality the Hendrick Racing Team demands, the quality your car deserves.
.5 laps left to go in the NFRN Champions League season. Van Arsdale provisionally holds the championship lead. And as we approach what we expect to be our final pit stop of the night, we are seeing some battles starting to form. Butcher up to the back end of Allison Rain. Hasn't quite gotten side by side, but certainly looking to challenge for the 7th position and getting even closer down in 3 and 4. John Arndt trying to make up that time he lost as he slid in turn 4. Potentially contact with Van Arsdale, his competitor for the title. But he has stayed in contention with drivers falling behind him. Looking back up at Noah Cars. Tough fought season. Not much improvement from season 1. Still hasn't grabbed a points paying victory. He did win the Clash, the exhibition race at the start of the season in the Elite Cup Series, but otherwise has gone winless. As Markel looking to the outside now, he kind of slides up the racetrack. But they seem to be creeping ever so closely to Nick Smith. Certainly the gap has closed between these drivers beyond second place, but they're getting ever closer to Smith as Butcher continues to hound the back of Rain. And here comes Smith for the final pit stop. And once again, he will be the first to come down. Just like the first stop, he pitted from second place, came out the leader. Will he be able to have similar success here? We'll keep an eye on the leaders to see who else will come down. None of the front runners coming down this lap. So Smith will briefly fall a lap down. Going to hope that there's not a caution that would trap him behind the pace car. And it looks like it's going to be 2 tires for Nick Smith. So there is tire strategy here. And Noah Cars is going to relinquish the lead here. He'll come down. John Arndt is coming down now. It'll be a 2-tire stop for him as well. Now it's Tyler Markel up in front. He's going to stay out as Lindsay and Van Arsdale are going to pit. Seems like several drivers are going to pit this lap, but Markel stays out. Looking at Noah Cars, who had that contact the first time with Nick Smith, won't have a similar issue here. It's going to be 2 tires for him. Wonder if that played a factor into him waiting a lap, this time not making contact with the 18 cars. He goes away with the 2-tire stop. Plenty of drivers coming down here as Markel's coming down. Looks like Reese Butcher will inherit the lead. He was one of the later drivers to pit alongside NASCAR Fan 19, who comes down early this time. And we're starting to see some drivers taking no tire calls. I still see a couple taking 2, including William Brock, who still seems to have trouble fueling the car. And it's going to be a no-tire stop for Markel. He's going to drive away. Looks like Rampage will also take no tires. We saw this work out for Reese Butcher at Simtel. He took a no-tire stop as the 90 car comes in now. I don't know if that he necessarily needed to take no tires, but it definitely kept his lead way ahead of the next driver. And we're watching from above to see who's going to come out first. Butcher is coming out of the pits, but look at Tyler Markel. Look at the gap that he's accumulated. Nick Smith's going to fall back to 3rd place as the 48 car takes the no-tire call and is running away with it. He was in 3rd place as they started that pit cycle. And now with 5 laps to go, he's got a big gap on Reese Butcher, who also took no tires. And you would expect that they're effectively going to run the same speed. And Nick Smith's going to have to battle through the 90 car if he's going to gain any position. Meanwhile, Van Arsdale came out in 4th. As mentioned, that's the clinching spot, but John Arndt's certainly not going to lead the most laps in this race. So really the only driver he has to keep tabs on is Reese Butcher, who came into this race 3rd in points, as Markel and Smith are mathematically eliminated from the championship hopes. You got to give props to the 67 crew. Starting last, able to work his way up to 4th in a race that has really not had a lot of passing. In fact, we really haven't seen any passing besides the drivers that were trying to work their way into position side by side from the grid, as we now see that Nick Smith has caught Reese Butcher and is going to pass him. Or at least that was the plan until the 90 fought back on the outside. You would think that Nick Smith with 2 tires is going to take advantage here, as we see another battle further back. Tyler Markell has taken the white flag. Van Arsdale still in 4th. And Rampage starting to slip up as Lindsay goes underneath for 6th and Arndt going for 7th. But coming through turns 3 and 4, it's going to be victory on the race for Tyler Markell, and it's going to be a Champions League title for Eric Van Arsdale. Winner of the first 2 races of the season. He did just enough in the following 2 races to claim the first NFRN Champions League title. Props to that team and what they've been going through trying to find victory in the Elite and Amateur Cup Series. Haven't been able to find it, but they did exactly what they needed to do in this invite-only league, and they will come away with the title. We look at the final finishing results. Tyler Markell claiming the victory, having a good run at the end of the season after claiming a victory in Elite Cup Series at Toronto. Nick Smith will be able to pass Reese Butcher to grab 2nd place, and certainly going to bump him up a few spots in the standings. There's your champion, Van Arsdale in 4th, and Noah Cars will come home in the 5th position after leading the whole first stint of this race. Colin Lindsay and John Arndt able to get by a Rampage who took no tires on the final stop. Did not work out for him, as Allison Rain ends up in 9th, and Stephen Willie was able to get by NASCAR Fan 19 for the 10th position at the end of that race. And the final points margin will be Van Arsdale 13 points ahead of Reese Butcher, who is able to jump up into 2nd, and Tyler Markell's victory gets him to 3rd, as John Arndt will end up in the 4th position. Rampage, who will be retiring after the season, our Season 1 champion, is in 5th position. Nick Smith, who grabbed the runner-up finish, is able to jump a couple spots into 9th in the standings. And NASCAR Fan 19 never finished above 7th in any of the 4 races this season. He'll end up in the last position. So that'll bring the first season of the NFRN Champions League to a close, but expect to see another group of 12 drivers battling it out on diverse racetracks for a shot at a title next season. Our congrats to Eric Van Arsdale, a 2-time winner in this series, for grabbing the title, and a reminder that we are going to continue our racing here at Myrtle Beach. Truck Series up next and Elite Cup Series racing after that. For NFRN and RVN, my name is Colin Denton, and we hope to see you next time.